Hello, this is the hardcore legend Mick Foley, and if you're like me, you've got plenty of time on your hands during this coronavirus quarantine time. Things are going to get better. It's just a matter of time. But until they do, you should do what I do and watch Josh Talks on YouTube. This guy's interviewing skills, man, I've seen a lot of them, but Josh is the most recent. So watch Josh Talks right there on your YouTube. Stay safe and have a nice day.
Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Josh Talks. Got a very special guest with me this week. He is one of the original members of the Nexus, former WWE Tag Team Champion, one of the hosts of the Pro and Bro Wrestling podcast. This man does it all. In fact, even while in quarantine, he refuses to take a day off. He is Mr. No Days Off, Fred Rosser. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Josh. Thanks for having me on. The one thing I don't like is the word former because former sounds washed up. I like using the word WWE veteran. I started with
Okay.
WWE in 2009. I'm just BSing with you. I tell that to everybody because
No, it's
everyone
all
always
good.
announces me. e- Everyone always announces me as former. But I said I started in 2009 with WWE and I ended my career with them in 2017, but it just didn't start in 2009. It started in 2003 when I first did extra work for them. So I've had a relationship with them for some time. So I like to be known as Mr. No Days Off WWE veteran.
Just man, you're showing off the muscles in this interview. You think I want to piss you off right now? Come on. Uh,
Hey, 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 Josh, it's almost bedtime, and I always say, why hide hard work? The only thing that I have to hide is my hair because during this whole quarantine, I, I'm after it's all said and done, I'm bringing back the afro like old days.
Actually, that was going to be one of the things I was asking because I mean I'm going crazy with my hair too. I mean we first met a few months ago at Wrestling Poor Wrestling, Brian Kendrick's kind of comedy wrestling show. I play a character that has this weird newscaster wig. My hair at the point looks identical to that wig because there's nothing happened. And you're known, I mean, you've been known as having very unique hairstyles over the years. So I was kind of curious how you were going to end up with this interview, and the hat kind of surprised me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, yeah, my hair's a mess, and I always say, if your hair is nappy, ain't nobody happy. So I know if I reveal the hair, you're not going to be happy. Your viewers aren't going to be happy. So yeah, I just said I got to show off the body because health is wealth, and I'm a big believer in making sure the lifestyle of eating is sustainable and working out is sustainable. So I'm always preaching good health and wealth.
What have you been trying? Like, how have you been doing that as far as the eating healthy and working out? While obviously all of us at the time that we're filming this on May 4th. We're all cooped up at home. So, what has been your kind of secrets with it?
I'm like Rocky in my garage. I'm trying to make it work. I'm trying to get that heart rate up. I train with a weighted vest on, lots of jump roping, lots of squats. When it comes to diet, I don't like using the word diet because anything with the word dying is no good in my opinion. My lifestyle of eating is I'm a big fan of the intermittent fasting.
Mm.
I usually fast for about 20 hours, and then the 4 hours I eat, pretty decent. My weakness is peanut butter, so I'm able to eat a half a jar, sometimes an entire jar of peanut butter, and still look decent, because of the way I fast and I ingest exogenous ketones because it helps me burn fat, mental clarity, and all that other good stuff. So I'm always talking about on my social media and my IG stories about ketones and the ketogenic lifestyle. So, like I said, health is wealth, baby.
Nice. So, we're actually coming upon, I believe it's next month in June, would be the 10-year anniversary when Nexus made their debut on Raw. And obviously, I know you talked about it in your podcast as well. With there was another set of recent releases in WWE because of everything going on. Heath Slater was recently released, and based on that original like Nexus crew, he was the last one on the roster at the moment.
Mhm.
So with that, I'm just kind of curious. First off, have you talked to Heath? Second of all, do you feel like, over that course of 10 years, are you at all surprised, or are you surprised that, like no one from that core is there anymore?
Well, I was actually supposed to be going back for WrestleMania. I think it was because the anniversary. So if this
Mm.
pandemic didn't happen, I would have been at Access. I would have been doing stuff for the network. So I was a little bummed out about it. But WWE assured me that once everything calms down, eventually they would bring me back to do like stuff for the network and autograph signings and who knows what else. That's why I stay ready, so I ain't got to get ready, especially when it comes to my fitness. Out of all the Nexus members, I probably stay in contact with Heath Slater. Heath
Hmm.
Slater is my heart, man. And even though we might not talk all the time, anytime we do talk, it's just like old times. Him and I would get into a lot of trouble, um, a lot of good trouble, and I truly miss him. And I know he's gonna do well. And he's posted videos with him working out, and I crack up over it because like he wasn't the type of guy to really post workout videos, but now all of a sudden he's posting workout videos, so I just crack up over that. But yeah, 10 years flies, and probably the most recent Nexus member I saw was Wade Barrett, and I saw him in LA at one of the signings that the Undertaker was headlining. So I got to chat it up with Stu, Wade Barrett, and yeah, actually all of the Nexus members are still in a text thread. So they're always sending stuff, wacky gifs and all that stuff, and I'm sending wacky stuff. So we all stay in contact with one another.
Well, that's honestly, I think that's really cool. All these years later, you guys still have that connection, so you're still keeping in touch with everybody. Honestly, I think that's a really noble thing to hear, not just out of you, but the whole crew. I think
Yeah.
that's really, really cool to hear because I've heard plenty of stories where that is not the case. So I'm glad to hear something like that. That is really, really cool. Um, we were talking a little bit about now you kind of switch over to the podcast side because you're doing your pro and bro wrestling podcast.
Hmm.
How has that transition been to obviously you're still performing all over the place, but now you're also just doing your own show, giving your opinions. What has that been like?
Well, I've had several of my close friends in the past say, you should do a podcast. You should do a podcast. And at the time, I was like, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I actually do it with my real life neighbor, Arnold Telegarta. And yeah, I moved out to LA August 2017. And I remember one morning I was walking outside my house, and he was he was walking his dog Junior, and he saw me and he started freaking out like, "Oh no way, Darren Young!" And and I said, "Oh no, now this fan knows where I live now." And I'm like, "I'm a private person. During this whole quarantine, I'm a homebody, but this is a little bit too much." But anyway, I like to live a private life, and I ran into Arnold, and he was telling me, oh, my wife and I live right next door, and I'm such a big wrestling fan, and him and I started chatting it up, and we became friends on social media, and he asked me over a year ago, hey man, would you want to do a podcast? And then I said, I'm having all these people ask me I should do a podcast. I'm like, why not? Let's do it. And it's really like therapy for me.
Hmm.
Every week we do it. He's not one of those wrestling fans where he's like, oh, I'm not gonna watch it, or like he tries to see the best in everything.
Sure.
He's been watching it since he came out of his mom's womb. So I steal that line from him too. When people ask me when did I start watching wrestling, ever since I came out my mom's womb. So he's very knowledgeable about the business. That's why I call him the professor, because even certain statistics I don't know, he knows. So it's really like therapy, and I'm glad I'm able to do it. Just last week we had Kalisto from WWE on, who's a really close friend of mine, and sometimes to get these guys from WWE, you need permission. You need permission to wipe your ass, pretty much, with WWE. But Kalisto is my friend, and he didn't ask for permission. He said, "Yeah, man, I'll do your podcast," and it was great. I always say, don't die with the story and you tell it. So, however, I can have someone share their story on my podcast and vice versa, like me sharing my story on your platform, Josh, um, is very important because there's 7 billion plus people on this planet. So there's a lot of room for me to continue to roll up my sleeves and keep sharing my story.
Yeah, and you really did, share your story. You shared a big part of you, obviously, many years ago, and that famous, TMZ night at the airport, where you, to the world came out with your sexuality, and I'm just curious, like all these years later, obviously we were looking hindsight, looking way back when. Um, if you were to make an announcement like that any different, would you, or would you keep it exactly as you did it?
I don't know if I could have been at it, but I felt like it was the right place, right time. And I said what I said, and it was the best decision I did, man.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think my story was a big deal. I didn't think what I did was a big deal until, of all people, the icon that we all know of, Cher, she contacted me on social media, and she said, because of her hearing my story, one of her friends who was a big wrestling fan came out to his family. And it was that minute I realized that my story was a big deal. And I say my fight's much more bigger than in the ring. It's outside of the ring, fighting bigotry and hatred and trying to be the voice of the voiceless when it comes to the LGBTQ community or anyone that gets bullied into silence. That's why my whole Block the Hate movement is just not an LGBTQ movement. It's a movement for anyone. Like someone says, you can't do it because you have gray in your hair, or someone says I can't do it because I have a speech impediment. Well, you know what? Block the hate. In this
Yeah.
world, we all receive hate for various reasons, but in order to be strong and successful, you got to block the hate. So it's a universal message that I want it to be a household name.
And you're talking about as far as, with supporting obviously the LGBTQ community in the WWE currently, you have Jake Atlas just recently been making his NXT debut. Obviously, Sonya Deville's been on TV more and more each week. Have you had any communication with him? I know there was a point, I believe you worked Jake Atlas on the Indies at some point, correct?
Yeah. Brian Kendrick,
Yep.
no, wait, was it? No, it wasn't Brian Kendrick. It was Dolph's brother.
Oh, Ryan Nemeth. Yeah.
Yeah, he asked me if I could do a fundraiser show for him. And for me, this is still fun. Whether it's in front of 100 people or 10,000 people, this is still so much fun for me. And sorry, I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you.
I don't want to wake anyone up in the house. Normally, I'm a little bit more lively, but like people are
It's late. It's
asleep.
fine. I got you.
People are asleep. I don't want to wake anyone up. But yeah, Ryan had asked me to do a fundraiser show, and I said, sure, I'll do it, but if I could wrestle my own opponent. And I asked if I could wrestle Jake Atlas, and Jake was honored to do the favors and work with me. And I said at the time, in 17 years, that was probably my top three, top five favorite matches with Jake, because he's got great instinct. He's got great instinct. He's quiet backstage, but when he comes out there and that bell rings, it's real, and that's how I like it.
Now that he's starting to be seen on television, is there any type of advice that you would be giving him?
Well, a piece of advice that I give everyone, because the business, it's all ice cream, just different flavors. You might like Rocky Road. I might like cookies and cream. It's all the same. But one advice that a lot of people don't get is, one, take care of your body. If you have shoulder issues, if you have like knee injuries, just take care of that. do a lot of exercises to strengthen that up, mobility exercises, prehab stuff, so you don't re-injure yourself or get injured. Is very important because the one thing that goes on a lot of wrestlers are look at the Undertaker, look at Hulk Hogan, the hips start to go. So it's
Yeah.
very important to stay mobile. You don't want to be when you get brought up to WWE, you don't want to have any injuries, you don't want to have any disabilities. So that's the one piece of advice I tell people is take care of your body. And I told Jake, I said, Jake, this is a wacky business. You're gonna have to eat shit and like the taste of it. And sometimes things aren't fair. But you just gotta play your cards right and just play your cards right. I say it all the time, play your cards right. I say I lasted so long with WWE was because I was easy to work with. I was the type of guy, if I have to do a job to someone, I don't complain. I'm gonna get my stuff in, trust me. But hey, it is what it is. It's entertainment. We're a traveling circus. So if this was real, honestly, I'd probably be one of the top 5 toughest guys in the locker room. That's something that I pride myself on. But this is entertainment. We want to tell stories, and that's what I do. So I check my ego at the door.
You're talking about, making stuff with the entertainment. Honestly, probably one of the most entertaining things that I remember with you watching on TV was your segments with Bob Backlund.
Yeah.
I found those so fun because it was very different and it was a new side of you that we hadn't
Yes.
seen on TV. And
Yes.
obviously working with such a legend and such an insane human being like Bob Backlund.
Yeah.
I know he. Here's a little story for me. So apparently, when I was a little kid, my dad was a vice principal at a middle school in Connecticut, and apparently I didn't go to that same school, but apparently one day Bob Backlund appeared at the school, like was doing something, and my dad went up to him to ask him to get me an autograph because I'm a big wrestling fan, and he refused to do it because he told my dad, the vice principal of the school, can you name all the presidents in order? And he's like, no, I can't. Well, then he doesn't get an autograph. And I remember my dad felt so disappointed to tell me he couldn't get an autograph. But it's like, that's just one tiny example of who Bob Backlund was. And you got the opportunity to work with him for several months.
Well, I don't know how long that was, but
Yeah.
I remember traveling with Bob, and I asked him, "Can you still remember all the presidents?" And he said, "Oh gosh, I don't know if I can remember all the presidents like I used to." So he's getting older, so even he doesn't remember it. So I guess nowadays when people ask him for a autograph, he either asks them to do like 20 or 30 push-ups, or he tells them to buy his book because he's a business, which he's
Yeah.
right. He's a business. So he tells them to either buy his book or do like 20 or 30 push-ups. So how the Make Darren Young Great Again gimmick, whatever, came about was, tag teams don't last forever.
Sure.
And I've done signings with Bob Backlund, 3 signings with Bob Backlund, and when we do signings, he doesn't sit down, and I don't sit down. He's very energetic. I'm very energetic, and I said to myself in the back of my head, man, I like to have him as my life coach someday because he reminds me of our relationship could be almost like, which I stole, the relationship between Mike Tyson and his former trainer Cuss, So I took that idea and made it into my own, and I wrote out the ideas. I had visuals written out, and the most intimidating thing about Vince McMahon is his office door. So once you get through his office door, it's all gravy. And I had it all proposed once I was done teaming with Titus, and I proposed it to Vince McMahon. And I remember talking to him for about 20 minutes about the angle and yoga. And how yoga came up was he was asking me, man, how do you get such a big barrel chest. And I said, yoga. And he's like, really? I said, yeah. I said, it corrects your posture. Like, instead of being slumped over, it kind of
Yeah.
squeezes your shoulder blades back. And for me, it makes my chest appear bigger. So between talking about yoga and the Bob Backlund gimmick that we were doing, he called up Bob Backlund personally because Vince loved the idea. And we started rocking and rolling with it. It's just unfortunate that the people that work under Vince McMahon, the 10, 11, 12 other writers and production people that work under Vince McMahon didn't have my back. So it is what it is, man. I'm not going to cry over spilled milk, but Vince gave me an opportunity.
Is there anything that you think could have been with that whole pairing that would have made those writers on board with it, or no?
It wasn't their idea. It was my idea. So I think everyone has their own agenda and everyone has their own stories that they want to get over. And mine became not a priority because it wasn't their idea. It wasn't their vision. So that's how it is. That's the nature of the business. That's the entertainment world, you know. So I did the best of my ability. It's just unfortunate I didn't have those guys, having my back. And I remember my last feud with WWE was with The Miz. And I remember meeting The Miz years ago, and I couldn't stand him because he was the loudest guy in the locker room, and I couldn't even stand him from the Real Raw. Season 10 he was on. But when I got to work with him, he helped me out so much, and he was actually rooting for me to take the title from him, the Intercontinental Championship from him. And of course, heels can get it back the next day, a week, or whatever. But he was rooting for me to win the championship. And when I had that match with him, I was told by Triple H I couldn't use a crossface chicken wing anymore because it was a dangerous hold. And I said, no, I'm not going to hurt anyone. I'm not going to hurt anyone. And I remember him saying, well, try putting that on Randy Orton. We all know Randy Orton has bad shoulders. He said,
Bad
try
shoulder,
putting that
yeah.
on. Yeah, he said, try putting that on him and see what happens. And I'm like, so he said, I want you to do the Cobra Clutch. I said to myself, if I wanted Sergeant Slaughter to be my life coach, I would have asked him. I said, Hunter, if I do the Cobra Clutch to The Miz, people are gonna look at me and like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, And Hunter assured me, Darren, everything will be okay. It's just I was devastated, man. Something I had worked so hard for. I had been with the Nexus. I had been a group with the Nexus. I had teamed with Titus. Now I was actually finally getting over by myself, and I had it taken away from me. And I remember a couple weeks after him telling me not to use it anymore, Miz had came up to me in the locker room and said, I never watched NXT, but you wouldn't believe I saw Asuka using the Asuka lock.
I was just gonna say it's a variation of the crossface chicken wing.
Yeah, so long story short, he was saving it for her because, like I said, everyone has their own agenda. So, hey, it is what it is. But I'm not gonna talk down upon anyone. I'm not gonna be a disgruntled veteran.
Yeah.
I like to call myself the veteran, but I'm not gonna be a disgruntled veteran. I'm just gonna share my stories and speak from the heart. I don't have anything written out in front of me, or I'm not talking from my head. I'm talking from my heart.
Well, I know, and with that, you're talking about, your visions and ways to help people.
By the way, I
Yeah.
saw you had Al Snow on. I remember
I
Al
did.
Snow. I remember Al Snow told me at a wrestling seminar that I did a tryout match in front of him, and I remember him saying, just because you're big, that doesn't mean that you're gonna make it. So you could be big, but you need to know how to work. And I knew what I was doing at the time, but yeah, he kind of crushed my dreams that one that one tryout. He wouldn't remember, but I of course I remember. That's
I don't
why
know. The guy's got a hell of a mind.
yeah.
I can ask him. I can ask him if he remembers because and the fact that you did your homework and saw other interviews I did, you get even more bonus points in my book, sir.
No, but yeah, I always love Al Snow as a character and just as an overall performer. He's one of the best, and he's a great coach too. I just remember him saying that. That's why anytime I meet people that like I've started with or I've came across, I always ask them, "Oh, how was I? How was I as a person? Was I nice to you?" Because I pride myself on being a gentleman and being nice to people. I remember when I first started wrestling, the only mean thing I would do is if your wrestling gear was smelling during practice, I would rough you up a bit. I wouldn't like hit you in the nose,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I would hit you hard and I would throw you out of the ring and you'd like tumble out the ring. But that's probably only the mean thing I've ever done.
Weirdest prank that either was pulled on you or that you helped pull on someone.
Uh, the worst prank that was pulled on me was I got signed May 4th, 2009, in Tampa, Florida. I beat out 75 and guys and girls from all over the world. I actually paid to do the tryout. I think nowadays people don't have to pay to try out, but I
Mhm.
paid $1,000 or $2,000 to try out in Tampa, and I earned my contract May 4th. And June 25th, 2009, the same day Michael Jackson died, was when I first stepped foot in an FCW ring, practice ring. So I'm pretty good with my dates. And then probably a week after Michael Jackson's passing, we had a talent meeting in Tampa at the Florida Championship Wrestling Center. And I overslept. I lived right around the corner from FCW and I missed the meeting. And like, I'm like, oh my goodness. So everyone's everyone's at the school. The parking lot is full. I'm like, I can't walk in there. I'm trying to find a door to sneak in. I didn't make it to the meeting. So that afternoon we had a show somewhere in Plant City, Florida, and I got a call from John Laurinaitis. I thought it was John Laurinaitis, and John Laurinaitis was like, Fred, what happened? You missed the meeting, man. You just got signed. That's a tough way to start. And like, I'm like crying my eyes out. I'm like, John, I'll, I'll take a fine. I'll do whatever I have to do, but please don't fire me. I just started. He's like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can trust you. Turns out John Laurinaitis was actually Dr. Tom Prichard and Norman Smiley. And, and I was outside the parking lot, outside of our show, and I'm like talking to who I think is John Laurinaitis, and they come up to me and point and tap me on the back, and it was them on the phone, and they told me, hey, we got your back. We're not going to tell anyone. So that meant the world to me. If it wasn't for Dr. Tom Pritchard, I wouldn't have gotten signed. So he told me, don't let it happen again. And Dr. Tom Pritchard was a great. He wasn't a coach. He was a good teacher, and he was the type of person when Uber wasn't around back in 2009 and 10. He was the type of guy, if you're drunk at the bar in Tampa and you call him up and say, Doc, I'm drunk, Doc would come there, pick you up, and as he's yelling at you in the car about being so drunk and messed up, he would drop you off home and he would say, thanks for calling me. So he did do that to me, but he did that to some of my close friends in FCW. So that's the kind of guy he was, and no one would ever know.
Do you think he'll ever get the recognition that so many people say he deserves?
Say that again.
There's so many people who have such positive stories about Dr. Tom Pritchard. Do you think he'll ever really get the recognition that he deserves, as far as like whether Hall of Fame or anything?
I hope so. He deserves it. Trust me. I don't know if he has a good relationship with the higher ups.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's got a good relationship with the game. I don't know. But all I know is any interview I do, I'm always going to put him over because he was a great teacher, and you could tell if you're a good teacher or you're just a good human being when you come backstage to visit WWE and everyone is just bombarding you and coming up to you and just hugging you and like bear hugging you and throwing you down to the ground. Like, you know that everyone's got love from him, uh, has love for Dr. Tom Prichard, everyone that started in FCW.
Well, you're talking about him getting put over by so many people. Let's wrap this up by putting over whatever things that you want to plug or things that you're working on, you want people to know. Of course, plug in your social media. What is going on right now that you're working on while in quarantine? Because we know you're not taking a day off. We know you're still working on stuff. It's just in your
Absolutely
name.
not. Yeah, yeah. And it's not just my name; it's everybody's name. It should be your name too, Josh. It's a lifestyle of constant grind, constant struggle, and overcoming ugly. And
Yeah.
just before this pandemic, right before this pandemic, I just finished my first off-Broadway musical in New York. I started working on that in December, and we filmed it for 2 weeks in February. It's a off-Broadway musical about marriage equality. It was called Little House on the Ferry, and we've already shot, you know, 10 episodes or so, and we're looking to find a distributor, whether it's Amazon or Netflix or some kind of live streaming network. So it's not my job to find find the jobs. I'm just putting it over always on my social media, and the director and everyone in charge of this project that I worked on right before the pandemic happened is trying to do their best to get it picked up. So the reason why I did this musical, I'm 36. At 26, I wouldn't have done the musical. But at 36, I said, why not? And probably the biggest inspiration for me doing the musical was Chris Jericho, because Chris Jericho has done so much, man.
Yeah.
Him doing Dancing with the Stars. When I got this opportunity to do this musical, I'm like, should I do this? I can't sing. I know they're gonna teach me how to sing. They're gonna teach me how to dance. They're gonna teach me how to act. I'm the lead in the play. I'm like the fish out of water story, because it was a reality TV project. Reality TV and theater meet. So we're we were doing the play, but they were actually filming um,
Hmm.
the reality part behind the scenes. So, before I took on this project, I'm like, man, should I do this, man? I said, man, if Chris Jericho can do it, why can't I, man? Because everything he does touches the gold, man. So I told Chris Jericho that he was a big inspiration in the IG story, and he retweeted the story on the IG story. So that meant a lot to me. Chris Jericho's always been a great guy to me, and for him to, shout me out on IG meant a lot to me. So that project I just got finished with right before the pandemic, and I want to do more, and I can honestly say that I'm the first WWE veteran to kind of branch off and do off Broadway musicals. So I got to pat myself on the back. I got to do the Barry Horowitz, because I didn't think I could do it, because I always tell people CTE, CTE from concussions. I couldn't, WWE, they give you a one sheeter of stuff you have to say. I had like a 50-page book of stuff that I had to remember. And I honestly worked with the director every day, and also like taking in my ketones, which helps with brain health. And I felt like this helped me out so much. And, I completed that. And now, I'm playing with my god babies here in LA. I'm working out, doing my little Rocky workouts, doing my podcast, doing these interviews to share my story. And I've always been I've always been like a nervous talker, just a nervous person, introvert, not a nervous talker, but an introvert. And Even before the pandemic, I just always loved sharing my story. On top of the wrestling, before the pandemic, I speak at schools all over the world. I share my story. And I think the true test of a promo is being able to do 45 minutes of work uh, in front of fifth graders, 500 fifth graders.
Yeah.
That's the true test, to be able to hold their attention and be able to captivate them with your story. That's the true test, and I nail it all the time. Of course I practice, but I nail it all the time. So yeah. And you know one monkey don't stop no show. I got to keep moving, I got to keep going, I got to stay in shape, because you never know when you get that call. And even if I don't get the call, my health is more important than anything. So I always say, you can strip me of my finances, you can strip me of my clothes, but you cannot and will not strip me of my good health. So that's something I pride myself on. And anyone listening, definitely follow me on my social media: Twitter, Instagram, at Real Fred Rosser, my government name, RealFredRosser. And if you have any questions about health, if you have any questions about ketones, definitely hit me up in the DM. Uh, any of the comments on Instagram, definitely reach out to me. I always say my social media is an open diary to the world. So anything I ever post always comes from the heart, with the intent to inspire, motivate, and educate our youth and the masses. So, like, Josh, if you know anyone that doesn't have anyone that supports them on their social media, have them reach out to me.
Absolutely, man. You're a great wrestler, fantastic entertainer, and you're really showing all these that you're just a genuine good person. And we need more Fred Rossers around. We need more people taking no days off.
Yeah.
So I thank you so much for taking this time to chat with me and to chat on
Yes.
on my channel. Please, guys,
Yes.
make sure you like, share, subscribe, share this video. Aspiring wrestlers, wrestling fans, they need to hear what Fred has been saying and all the things he's doing, because it's important and it's motivational. So please make sure you do that. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Josh_Tariff. Fred, thank you so much for being here, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you.